we'll be looking at how terrorist activities have diminished by increased government security operations in the Northeast. However, the national spread of criminality and banditry continue to pose a bigger threat to business operations. At the right-hand corner of the screen are verified incidents in the last 48 hours, dotted across a map across the country. And on the left-hand side corner of the screen, range of managerial and analytics functions, including filter that allows you to search for incidents, that allows you to search for an incident, the location, the dates, as well as keywords. So for today, we'll be looking at terrorism and how it is developing across the country. So firstly, let's look at government security activities from January 2020 to December 2020, using keywords like ISWAP. Let's see how the government have been able to tackle the threat, how the government was able to tackle the threat of terrorism in 2020. And for what we can see on the map here is that a lot of these activities were concentrated in the Northeast, notably in Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa states. And there were over 158 incidents. So now let's look at that incident from 2020 to 2021. And we can see that there was an extra 158 government operations, and then also a concentration in the Northeast, especially in Borno and in Yobe states. And now let's look at these from 2020 to 2022. We can also see pocket of incidents occurring in Niger State, Kaduna State, and Sokoto State, with a lot of this concentration still in the Northeast as well. And this shows that terrorist groups are spreading and governments are combating them in new territories outside the Northeast. Now let's see if government activities have been able to stem terrorist attacks. Now looking at terrorism in 2020, we are seeing 292 attacks by terrorists, with most attacks targeting government security forces. And a lot of these attacks were concentrated in the Northeast, notably in Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa states. Now let's look at this trend from 2020 to 2021. And in 2020 to 2021, we can see an additional of over 200 incidents. And most of these incidents spread across the Northeast region. Now let's look at this incident from 2020 to 2022. In 2022, we are seeing an extra over 40 more incidents and a much more spread. Now let's look at these incidents on a quarterly basis. In the first quarter of 2021, we've seen over 48 incidents with splinter attacks occurring outside the Northeast. Let's compare with 2021. In 2021, we saw a concentration of these activities in the Northeast. And let's look at 2020. Now, in 2020, we are seeing 58 incidents. And so, although the numbers of these attacks are hovering on the same level in the last 3 years, the attacks are no longer concentrated in the Northeast, with attacks this year happening in Niger State and Kaduna states. Now, who is the actual perpetrator of these terrorist acts? So let's look at who the actual perpetrator of these terrorist acts. Now, let's look at incidents carried out by ISWAP from 2021 till date. And we can see that ISWAP has perpetrated over 163 terrorist attacks. Now, let's compare it with Boko Haram, which is the rival terrorist group in the Northeast. We can see Boko Haram has a reduced number of attacks, and this shows that ISWAP is the dominant group in the Northeast. Boko Haram decline coincides with the death of the group's leader, Abubakar Shekau, in 2021. His death also triggered the spread of Boko Haram fighters who refused to pledge allegiance to ISWAP to new territories outside Northeast Nigeria. For example, Boko Haram, an affiliated group, carried out attacks in Niger State this year. And also, Boko Haram also relocated its bomb fabricator headquarters to Kaduna State. And these are areas that were formerly controlled by bandits. That are currently controlled by bandits, rather. Though terrorists and bandits are different in ideology, they both carry out similar mode of attacks, such as attacks on farmers, kidnap of school children, and they also mount roadblocks on travel routes as well. They are also dressed in military fatigue as well, which they use to disguise to carry out attacks. So going forward, analysts should look out for possible collaborations between bandits and terrorists, as this will likely increase the risk profile of some low-risk states and also pose as a bigger threat to business operations. Analysts should also look out for how these collaborations would unfold ahead of the 2023 elections.